And good Sunday morning to everybody. Sunday afternoon to some of you, Sunday evening, Monday morning, wherever you are. This is the part of the show where we sit and wait for the clock to strike 12. For those of you who are watching on replay, just go ahead and scrub that little slider forward until you see this graphic disappear. We're just kind of chilling here and killing time until the clock strikes 12 my time. You're going to have to, you folks watching live, please forgive the sound. It is a bit chillish here in Southern Oregon today. So I've got the heater running. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but it's a bright, sunshiny, clear, but cool day. So had to fire up the heat to get my blood pumping this morning. I am so not ready for winter, and I am so not looking forward to it. So that's okay. All right, the notification should have gone out, so it's about time for me to reach over, click the magic button, and say, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope things are going good for you and yours. And let's just hope we can all make it through another week. Hope you've gotten some shop time anyway. So let's start at the beginning. We'll come up here and we'll say hello to everybody in the chat. We have Steve Gronsky joining us. Javi's Woodshop down in Florida. Let's see, Bill Stauffer in Ohio. Jay Ayers just waiting for me to start. Yep, me too. David Pingle. I think, David, I owe you an apology because I think I've been calling you David Pringle. But I imagine I'm not the first one, but I do try to get people's names right. My apologies. Ice Cream 62 checking in from Italy. Hope you're doing well. Everybody here is still just plugging away, doing fine. Let's see, Jeff Rozak in Florida, Lewis Denton in Gastonia, North Carolina. Troy Pritchard, how you doing, Troy? Steve Nealon, my man at Harneal Media, sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC. The man is the man, and I'm serious, your one-stop internet shop. If you need a website, you want to set up a web store, you want to sell items that you make, you want to sell merch, you want to create logos and t-shirts and hats and coffee cups and whatever, you name it, Steve's your guy. He can hook you up. He does an excellent job, and he doesn't charge 2 arms, half a leg, and 3 toes. He's very good at what he does. Check him out. Link in the description below. Is in all of my videos. He's there. Mervyn at Poppy's Woodshed in Louisiana. How you doing today? Haven't seen you in a while. Jeff in Arizona over there. JMJ Love Dance. Uh-oh. Hello, all y'all, he says. That's my shtick, dude. Mike Mazalik in Philly. How you doing today, Mike? Nice to have you with us. Thomas Grimm. Jason Hammer. Les Clemens, hey, up in Salem, it's bright and sunny down here too. Bit chilly. Imagine y'all are much colder. Wow. Let's see, Roy Jones in Texas, Kurt Briegel in Wisconsin, Bob Ferguson from Perry Sound, Ontario. Wow. Norman Peterson from my old stomping grounds down Reno. Lived in the Nevada desert for 15 years. Gorgeous country, but windy. Let's see, Dwayne Ruthig, West Michigan. Isle Peleg checking in from Israel. Let's see, it jumped on me. It always does this when I get close. Richard Canton in Michigan chilling out. Literally. Tony Cruz from down in the Big Kitty Litter Box in Las Vegas. Man, I imagine it's probably below 100 degrees by now. It's too hot for me in Vegas, sorry. Mark Kulig from Chicago checking in. Harold Rigby in South Africa. Man, this still freaks me out. Paul Rothwell in cold and damp Manchester, UK. Marcus McPherson in Chicago. Charles Lawrence in Denver, 10 degrees. No, I can't. You do know you're free to go, right? You don't have to live where 10 degrees. No, thanks. No, not happening. Chad Garcia in Tulsa. Thanks for joining us. Frank Cabrera, Aaron in Florida. Aaron Hansen in Bridgeton, New Jersey. Jason Hammer in Indiana. Boy, Woody Wan checking in from Connecticut. Yazin checking in from Turkey. I'm still looking at that file and I'm trying to get it kind of straightened out. Yazin's been doing some cool looking 3D work and he has a very simple question. And it should be a very simple answer. I'm trying to wrap my head around a couple of things here. It's just kind of... Okay, let's see. Tom Miller from Austin. Steve Late. Hope you're feeling better, Steve. Hope everything is going all right. Okay, so your clocks went back an hour last night. Ours are still coming. We haven't done that yet. Let's see. Richard, how you doing from Quebec? Go Sign Go. I hope I got that right. I am the man. You're the man. Dwight Bennett in Indianapolis. Carlos Viore in Argentina. I know I just chopped up your name and I apologize for that. Richard Weiss in North Carolina. Alta from Norway. Wow. Let's see. And Motorstort from Colorado. Motorstort. For those of you who can speak, that would be Motorsport. From Colorado. Let's see. And Sargon down in Southern California. Thank you for joining me. Lots of stuff to get into. Lots of stuff to comment on. This is basically the Q&A and follow-up to my video on the tool database this morning. I purposely left a couple of things out simply because the video was already a half an hour long. I'm probably going to do a separate video on one of the things that I left out because it can be confusing at first if you're not careful. And that is the naming convention. The way, I kind of glossed over it, but I didn't get into it. The way the software names a tool when you add a new tool to the software. I kind of skipped over it because it's very easy to go in and mess something up if you're not sure. And I think I'm going to do a separate video on that, but that'll be down the road. Before I get into this morning's video, I had a very nice comment on Facebook from a gentleman in Slovakia who made a comment that he had just discovered today that I had set up subtitles and closed captions in the videos, and I have been translating those closed captions and subtitles into 6 other languages other than English. And basically all of my closed captions are now in English, Dutch, French, German, Hindi, Portuguese, and Spanish, because those were the countries that had the highest viewership of my videos. And him being in Slovakia, I asked him if there's a language that I'm missing there, please let me know, and I'll do my best if Google allows me to auto-translate from that language, I'll do my best to get it up there. Well, he informed me that if you click on closed captions, then go into settings and click that little closed caption language, it will let you auto-translate into 50 other languages. So there are languages in there that I have never even heard of. But the fact that I had translated into 6 other languages, it activated that. So now you can, if English is not your first language, you can translate all those subtitles and closed captions into the 50 languages that Google Auto Translate offers. I mean, I was just watching myself a minute ago and reading Swedish, which I didn't put in, and then Tagalog, or excuse me, not Tagalog, Philippine. It was strange to read these languages, but that opens up to everything and everybody. Now, I have not closed captioned every single video on my channel. There are some that I'm not going to close caption. I don't close caption the live stream because I talk too fast. I speak way too quickly to try to go back and edit all of that and close caption it. It takes a lot of time to close caption a video. It takes me anywhere from 4 to 6 hours on Saturday mornings to close caption these videos. And trying to do a live stream, it just isn't. I tried one and it just doesn't work. And some of my older videos was more or less the same. I just spoke too quickly. I'm not the most articulate guy in the world, so I kind of mash up words. And I have a bad habit of using American slang that doesn't translate very well into other languages. So on those older videos, I didn't bother trying to close caption them. But all of my Vectric videos, all of them, from the first one on, are closed captioned. So if English is not your first language, you should be able to auto-translate into any of those 50 languages that are out there. So thank you for letting me know that it can be auto-translated. That's great. That's killer. I love that. Next is, some of you who follow me on Facebook might have seen my posts about it. This was another rabbit hole I got into. And that was earlier this year, YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, decided that they were going to place mid-roll ads automatically in every video on the platform that qualified for it. Now, all you have to do to qualify to put in mid-roll ads is have a video that's 8 minutes long or more and be a part of the YouTube partnership program. I didn't realize how heavy-handed they got with placing these ads. Basically what they did, and this is especially true on my live streams, everywhere I took a second, didn't speak, and kind of scrolled through the comments to see if I had any questions, they would place an ad break. One video, I saw 15 ads. Well, what I did was I went back through, and this is, I went back, I have right now 249 videos on my channel. I went back through every single one of them and took out all of the mid-roll ads that YouTube put in. Now, full disclosure, there are about a dozen videos that I placed mid-roll ads in. One mid-roll ad. And that was an experiment on my part. And they're going to stay that way. I was looking at metrics and wanted to see something. But all of my live streams, let me back up and rephrase that. None of my live streams have mid-roll ads in them. Now, when we finish going live here, I have to wait for YouTube to finish processing this video and it goes live as a regular video. Then I can go back and disable the mid-roll ads. But by default, YouTube puts them in. So if you're watching this within the first 8 hours of when it was live, you may see mid-roll ads. And that's because it will not let me go in and shut them off. But every live stream video I have done, there are no mid-roll ads. And out of the 249 videos on my channel, maybe, I think it's 11 videos, have a single mid-roll ad in it. I've gotten rid of all the rest of them. I didn't realize how heavy-handed they had become, and I apologize for those of you who sat through in that one video was 15 ads. Average was 8. I'm not out to punish anybody. And I wouldn't sit through that, so I don't blame you for not sitting through it. But they're gone. And I'm going to do my best to stay on top of it so that there aren't any. There shouldn't have been any ads in today's video, except at the beginning. So, excuse me. We'll get off of that now and we'll get into today's video. And this was on the tool database. Let me go ahead and start screen sharing here in Aspire because I have something to show you. And that was when I imported, when I set up the new material, my softwood material here, I was asked, well, why didn't I just import the entire group into my new softwood category? Why did I just import one mill? I could import the entire group of mills, end mills, into that softwood category. And yes, I could have. But it would have also imported all of the feeds, speeds, and settings from whichever material I imported it from. So it then becomes a case of, at a quick glance, which ones have I modified the settings for and which ones haven't I modified the settings for. So it was easier, it's actually easier and less time consuming to go ahead and set up your new material than import the bits and their settings as you need them and as you use them. That way, it's not so much an issue with softwood, but for instance, if you set up a material for acrylic, you're not going to use the same feeds and speeds and cutting depths as you would, pass depths rather, as you would with, say, hardwood or sign foam or something like that. So it's better to import those tools one by one as you use them, or if you want to take the time and go through and do them all now, that's fine as well. But that removes any question as to whether or not you have set up that bit for that material. It answers that question. It's done. You know that if you have a bit that's available in this material, you have set it up for that material. So that's why I didn't just go ahead and import the whole group. And I think that was it for that question there. All right, so now let's go back over and let's find you guys, and we will see what questions you have. Let's see here. I know we've got some, I mentioned chip load, and we've got a lot of questions on chip load. I will bring it up briefly, but it's not something that I focus on. And okay, Bill Stauffer, first question up is, I'm not clear on what chip load is. Okay, chip load is defined as The thickness of the chip, the cutting edge, is removing from the material as it passes through the material. So where it comes from is a manufacturer on their bits. Like if you go to Tools Today or the Amana website or Whiteside's website and you're looking at an end mill, they will list their suggested chip load for that bit, which is the optimum settings. And it's a suggestion. There will be a range there, somewhere between, let's say, 2/1000ths and 4/1000ths of an inch is what the chip load is. That means that you literally pick up one of the chips that it is leaving behind as it cuts and measure it with calipers to see how thick that chip is. That's what chip load is. It's removing a chip from the material and spitting it out. And with that chip also goes heat. So your bit should stay cool. When you are finished and you go to take that tool out of the collet, you should be able to hold it in your hand no problem. If it's hot, you're either got your router or spindle set too high or you're moving too slow because it's building up friction. If you're creating dust, you're running too slow. Your feed rate is too slow or your router RPMs are too slow. One or the other. So chip load is the thickness of the chip that the material is removing. And again, it comes from the manufacturer. Now, the reason I don't get into this much is because even the manufacturers will tell you these are guidelines. They're starting points. The chip load that they recommend may require either spindle RPMs your machine is not capable of or feed rates your machine isn't capable of. It's a starting point. There's a compromise. There's been a couple of tools I have looked at that would require me to get their suggested chip load. It would require me to turn my spindle down to about 8,000 RPM and move at 200 inches per minute. I use a router on my CNC. I don't have a spindle. It will slow down to 12.5 thousand RPM. That's it. So in order to get their chip load, I would have to jump up to about 350 inches per minute. My machine won't do that. It's not that fast. So you have to kind of take a balance. That's why when people bring up chip load, feeds, and speeds, I try to stay out of it because about all I can do is start with a conservative number and find the balance where the router is cutting chips and not leaving dust, but it's also not flexing or forcing its way through the material. I'll take shallow cuts at a higher feed rate because I can't slow my RPMs down. So it's a balancing act. And it just takes experimentation. That's why I say cut, scrap, try it in scrap, practice in scrap. So I hope that answers the chip load questions. And after I said it in the video, I kind of cringed a little bit, but it was too late. So let's go ahead and cruise down. And I'm scrolling down from the top here. So it's and Mark Kulig was asking about the same thing. Can you explain what chip count means under Tool Database? Yes. Let's see. Well, it looks like... Okay, JMJ Love Dance, Jeff there wants to know, do you look for a particular chip load value when you add a tool to the database? I don't. You can. Again, that chip load is a recommendation from the manufacturer. And so you can adjust feeds and speeds to kind of get there. But they will also usually have some guidelines in the specifications that'll tell you what their recommendation is, what spindle RPM and feed rates you'll need to kind of get in that ballpark. Again, it depends on the machine. Most home hobby machines are not capable of doing the feed rates that some of these bits require. So it just depends. Let's see. Mark Kulig says, if you have a router not controlled by the software, can you use multiple dial style resistors or regulators to slow the router speed down from max bit speeds that the bits are rated at? There are a few people who have done that, but let me throw a caveat, okay? If your router is a variable speed router, don't do it. The variable speed, the electronics that control the variable speed are designed to have full power input. If you start regulating down the power input that's going into the router, you will burn out that variable speed controller and the router is gone. If you have a single speed router, like I have a Porter Cable 690 that I don't have on my CNC, it's just my handheld, but it's single speed. It has 2 speeds, on and off. I could use a router speed controller to slow it down or bring it back up. I don't like to do that, but you can do that. There is also something called a super PID. And a PID you can hook up through, I don't know what control software you're using, you can hook up a PID through Mach 3 and control the router speed through Mach 3. So it has been done, it can be done, but that's electronics, and I am not your guy. I don't know a thing about it. I've never done it. Electronics give me a rash. I'm just not that guy. I can plug and play stuff, and that's about it. So, let's see. Sargon asked, just wondering if anyone has used grouping tool paths and run into any strange issues. I've not used it yet. It's just now finally getting to be cool enough to where I can go out and cut in the shop, but I do plan on doing it. And if anybody has grouped their tool paths and then generated G-code from those group tool paths, I'd be interested in knowing if you had any issues either. So, let's see. Jim Hester says, great video, Mark. A suggestion. Some of us have low resolution monitors. When you show a dialog box like the tool screen today, it's pretty hard to read what the text says. I'm shooting in 1080p, and that's as good as my software will allow. I could try zooming in a little bit on the screen, but it makes, and I tried that, but what that does is it makes it difficult for me to move around. Now, if you mean digital zoom in when I'm trying to like focus on the tool database, I guess I could do that in my editing software if it's really necessary. But I've not heard anybody else make that suggestion. If you're having an issue seeing my screen like Jim is, let me know, please, and I'll work on it. But I have, monitors are cheap, Jim, and I'm not suggesting you go out and buy one to update a little bit. I see what you're saying here about make it easier to read on an old monitor. Dude, they're $50. I mean, but yeah, I get what you're saying. And This is another reason why I don't watch videos on a phone, because people are watching on an even smaller screen. I don't get that. I can't do it. Not me. Um, yeah, but I will look into doing that if it's necessary. Let's see. Paul Rothwell says, I work in metric, but all my tools I purchase are imperial. Therefore, when I import the tool into my tool database, do I have to convert the imperial measurements into metric myself? I believe, I've never dealt with that issue. But let me show you something that you can do. I'll have to go back into, let me bring up Aspire here and make sure I'm screen sharing, and I am. Okay. Let's say I want to import I'm going to pick one of these out. I won't save it. I'll take my small end mill here, and I'll go ahead and copy all of that. Let's say no, you know what? I'm not going to do this one. Cancel. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Open up my tool database. I'll go down to one of my metric tools. And no, you wanted to specifically know about converting imperial to metric. So yeah, I will take one of my imperial tools and I'll copy that. If for instance, you're buying an imperial tool and you want to convert it to metric, when you put your diameter in here, you'll import the tool and you put your diameter. Let's say it's a 1/2 inch diameter. Okay, so you'll type in 0.5. Then you'll hold down Shift and type asterisk, then M. Then when you tap the equals button on your keyboard, it will automatically convert that into metric. Okay? And you see what it did up here. It also changed the name of the bit, and it also changed all of my cutting criteria here. Now, obviously, I'm in an inches screen here, so this is now reading this as, 12 inches, which is absolutely wrong. So let me go back here to 0.093. But that's how you would do it. You would enter that imperial diameter, then asterisk M equals, and that would convert that diameter to metric. And basically put, that is available on any field that you can add a value to. Any field that requires a measurement, you can convert. If you want to convert metric to imperial, you type asterisk I, then the equals button on your keyboard. And when I say equals, I've had a couple people ask me, do you mean the enter key? No, I mean equals. It's the button, it's equals and the plus sign. On my keyboard, it's right next to the backspace key. That equals key, and it will convert either to imperial if you put asterisk I, or metric if you put asterisk M. Just about every field that requires a measurement or a number, those calculators are built in. So that's a big help, because nobody can remember every single measurement. Nobody you'd want to talk to anyway. I sure don't. So I hope that answers that question. I hope that's what you were talking about. Let's see. Let's see. Les Clemens says, you've shown how to add a tool by copy and edit your existing database, but not how to add from manufacturer's tool data file that you have downloaded? Is there a way to import that file into your database? I posted a link to the playlist of all of the videos I've done on the tool database, and I have talked about that in several videos. And in fact, this is a good time to do it. Steve Gronsky asked me a question earlier on Facebook, and I'm going to have to screen share again, so let me bring up Aspire. And I promised him a trick. And that was this. I'm going to cancel this for a minute here, discard those changes. He was asking about the Amana Tool Database. And if you go to Tools Today or Amana Tool, they have created a tool file, which is a database for their tools. Notice what I said there, for their tools. This is a huge database that you can import their tools into your tool database. The problem is it's their entire database. Every tool that Amana makes is in that database. Trust me when I say you don't want to plug up your database with every tool Amana makes. So his question was, how do I go ahead and use that database to import just one single tool? Well, this is where old versions of the software come in handy. You may notice down here I have two Aspire symbols. Up here I'm using Aspire 10.507, which is the latest release. When you upgrade versions of the Vectric software, it doesn't update your current installation. It actually is a totally new download, and your old version is still there. So here I have Aspire version 9.5 still on my computer. And here's the cheat, Steve. Here's the trick I was talking about. What I did was I imported that Amana Tool database, and you see how long it's taking to load. I imported that Amana Tool database into the old version that I no longer use. So now, if I want to import an end mill, and I mean, look at this. They have every tool they make. Let's just say I'm looking for a 1/4-inch shank end mill. Look at this list of end mills. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of tools in this database. I don't want to plug up my database with a bunch of tools I don't own. So let's say I have bought a 1/4-inch diameter end mill. I bought this part number from Amana Tools, and I want to import that tool into my database. What I'll do is I've got it selected right here. I'll export that tool. I'll write the name. I'm not going to do it because I don't really want to do that. I'll write the name of the tool here. Save it. I'm going to cancel here. Cancel here. Come over into my current version and import that tool file into this database. So I've downloaded their entire catalogs of tools into an old installation of Aspire that I don't use anymore. Then when I buy a tool from them, I can go to that individual tool and import it to my data, export it from there and import it into this current database. So that is a cheat. I know it, but it works, and it works very, very well. So I hope that answers your question on that, Steve. I will put a link in the description of this video to the particular videos that I have, that I know I've gone over importing a tool file into the tool database. I'll put links in the description. So, let's see. Let's go back down here again. And I'm sorry if I'm not keeping up with the chat. I'm scrolling down for questions. Les Clemens. No, that's the one I just did. Woody Wan says the fonts installed with the software that start with an A. Where are they located, as they are not in my Windows font file? You'll have to search for them. I'm not sure. They should be in your Windows font file. But then again, they may be in another application's data. For instance, if you have any Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, something like that, sometimes some installations of Adobe will put them in your Windows font file. Some won't. Some will be in that program's application data. So all I can say is search. And I know that's a pain. But if you can get the font name, search for the font name with that @ symbol. Dwayne Ruthig, most of the charts for hardwood show optimum chip load at 3000s you are way under that in your example. Yeah, and I think I thought I just explained that. Sometimes, and the chip load was 3000s, by the way, sometimes you cannot get the optimum chip load that the manufacturer recommends with a home hobby CNC router. It's just a fact. So, let's see. Marcus McPherson, I'm very new to Vectric and CNC. My Winfinity should be here in January. I do have the software and I have been following your videos. Should I change any settings in the tool database? I would hold off on that until you get bits, and then change the settings for those bits should you need to. Even the bits that are already entered in the tool database when you first get the software, even those are guidelines. You are going to need to adjust for your machine. I don't know anything about your machine or how rigid it is, what kind of spindle you have, if you have a spindle or a router. I don't know. There's so many variables that for me to try to suggest a feed rate or a router RPM for you may lead you down the wrong path. I start conservative. I adjust my feed rate on the fly when I see how it's cutting and go from there. You may or may not be able to do that. It's a very individual thing. That's why I test everything in scrap. And until you develop a little bit of experience with cutting specific woods, certain materials or what have you. Because believe me, maple's going to cut different from cherry, which is going to cut different from pine, which is going to cut different from oak. I've had different wood densities in the same board when you're talking about hard maples. So it's something that you have to play with. If you don't have a big, strong, sturdy machine, you have to play with it. So, let's see. Arturo Gonzalez Thomas says CNC Cookbook is the answer for all that chip load, feed, and speed question. I would recommend it as well if you have a machine that's capable of those feeds and speeds. And simply put, most home hobby machines just aren't capable of 300 inches per minute at 6,000 RPM. They're just not. So you have to find a happy medium. And that may mean, yeah, we're getting more tool wear, or yeah, we're creating dust instead of chips. But if you're not doing this for a living and trying to churn out 1,000 parts a day, if you're a home hobbyist like me, it doesn't matter. If that means I have to buy 3 tools in the time span you buy 2 tools, I'm willing to take that. If you are trying to make a living and feed your family with CNC, you need to seriously think about upgrading your CNC to something that is capable of cutting at 600 inches a minute. But my little homemade CNC will never be capable of doing that, and I don't expect it to. So, let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, come on. Mark Kulig says, would you use a bit shank adapter if needed? No, I wouldn't. I'm fortunate in that I use a Porter cable router, which is a pretty common uh, router collet. And I'll put a link in the description to a company called Elaire Corporation, Elaire. And this is for my U.S. folks. I don't know if they ship overseas or not. I buy a new collet that for the shank, and like I have some 1/8 inch shank bits. I spent the $22 to buy a 1/8 inch shank collet. I don't like adapters. You're adding in run out, you're adding in vibration, and some can have a tendency to get loose. Now, if you're using a spindle that uses like an ER11, ER20 collet, you can get various sizes of collets. I don't like shank adapters. I get the collet to match the tool. They're not expensive, you know. So I don't. And in fact, I know some folks love to use a muscle chuck on their CNC. I tried it one time. A downcut bit slipped, and I've never put it back on there. It's great on my router table, but I will not use it on the CNC. So, let's see. Carlos Viori wants to know what kind of interface is the best right now, Mach 3 or are they similar? That is very subjective. It's going to depend on your machine and the controller. Some controllers will not run Mach 3 or Mach 4. Some are made for universal G-code sender or something of that nature. It depends on your machine, and I know people don't like to hear that. If I were, now I use Mach 3 because that was what was available when I started getting into this 6 or 7 years ago. If I were just starting now, I would start with Mach 4, only because it's new, it's the latest, it's the best, and I would stick with it. But Mach 3 still does what I want it to do. I don't need anything that I've seen in Mach 4, and I've already paid for it. I'm happy to keep using it. So, but let's see. Jim Hester says, yeah, the text problem might also be my video card. I'll try both that and a better monitor. Thanks. I'm an expert at spending other people's money, Jim, but you know, I don't know what kind of resolution you're looking at. Also, when you watch any video on YouTube, click on that gear down there on the bottom of the video and set it to the highest resolution that video was uploaded in. All my videos are uploaded in 1080p, I think 60 FPS. It may be 30, I'm not sure. But they're all in 1080p. But if your YouTube settings are set to where you're getting a lower resolution, try a higher resolution. It might also be your internet service provider throttling back and it's, you know, down to 480 or something like that. I don't know. But IL Peleg has a good point. Why not just set the units to the right units depending on the tool? I did not understand that you have both metric and imperial tools mixed. And that's an excellent point. There is nothing that says you have to convert that tool to metric. This is in reference to converting the measurements from metric to imperial of the tool diameter. You can just keep it imperial and know that this is a 1/2 inch diameter bit. You don't have to convert it to metric. Now, if you're doing that for your own convenience, I can understand that, but you know, it's it's best to keep them separate. So let's see here. Richard Weiss says, I have a tool. I have a white side form tool that I would like to use as a V-bit. How do I add that form tool so that it shows up as a V-bit in my VCarve database? That gets kind of tricky. I would caution against doing that. I imagine it could be done. I don't know that the software will let you do it. I mean, and what kind of form tool is it? Why would you want to use it as a VBit? I don't know. Okay, let's see. Let's see, Dan Chapin says, how do I go about adding the Amana InGroove tools? I tried this using the form tools from the earlier videos. The form tools approach did not work as I expected. Well, as I say, if you have an old installation of your software, you can download Amana's entire tool database into that old installation and then import those specific tools into your tool database that way. I've not looked at the InGroove tools. I'll have to take a look at what they are. Let me write that down to look for that. Holy cow, I've been on here for 50 minutes. InGroove. I'll look those up and see what's going on with them and see what makes them special. So, let's see. Yeah, and Mike Nolan does make a good point. Whiteside Tools does have individual files for their tools. That's that can be imported for, yeah, but that wouldn't help Richard as far as the form tool acting as a V-bit. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I don't know if I like that idea. So, okay. I'm going to take just a couple more questions. Woodby says, hi, I'm doing a molding panel for a door that I'm building. Has to be mortised, I guess, on both sides. What kind of bit should I use for it? Also, the right vector for it. Thanks a lot. That is a lot of... that's a whole nother... I could do videos on that, you know. Actually, I tend to use my router table for mortises. I mean, the CNC is great, but if you've got to get some inventive clamping and mounting going. So I use my router table. The CNC is not always the right tool for the job. So, okay, Arturo Gonzalez says, Mark, you can adjust the parameters of your machine in that software. I have a 2.2 kW spindle. It works like a charm with suggested values from that software. And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to be argumentative. My point was not that you couldn't achieve that chip load by adjusting feeds and speeds. What I'm saying is the CNC, a lot of home hobbyists, and I venture to say most home hobbyists are not capable of reaching the feeds and speeds required to get that chip load. So that's my problem. That's my contention. So, and a 2.2 kilowatt spindle, you're running, my router is 2.25 horsepower, so we're roughly about somewhere the same. So the thing is, a spindle has that variable speed that most routers are not capable of doing. And I see where you said you broke some expensive tools before I started to use that software. I have broken one tool, and that was one that I dropped. I have never broken a tool in a cut. If you're breaking tools, you're pushing it too hard, or you're running your router RPMs too slow, router or spindle RPMs too slow. You're either running too fast or your RPMs are too slow. That's why I start conservative. I've never broken a bit while cutting, and I get a good clean result that isn't dust and my bits aren't hot. So, especially with expensive tools, I believe in caution. I'm not one of those guys that'll push it to see how far I can go. I'm a home hobbyist. I can take the time. Again, if you're trying to pump out 1,000 parts a day and you're trying to achieve blinding fast speeds, you're probably not using an X-Carve or a Shapeoko. And if you are using an X-Carve or a Shapeoko and trying to get those feeds and speeds, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They're not capable of 300 inches per minute with any kind of reliability. So, okay, let's see here. Okay, Jim Hester, the YouTube quality adjustment helped a lot. Thanks. Okay, yeah. There are all kinds of controls we don't even know. Let's see here. I'm trying to get... Okay, I see here. Mark Kulik says, sorry, meant to ask the adapter question. Not to change the shank diameter, but just for extra length. I've never used one, and I don't know what I think about them. I would tend to be very skeptical. I'm going to... let's see. Looking. Okay, Steve Gronsky says, you did somewhat answer my question with the cheat. Can I export, say, 6 or 7 tools at once, then import those? You could... I'm trying to think. Gosh, it's been so long since I've used 9.5. I think you could put those into their own group in an old installation and then import and export them, then import that group. But I would venture to say it just depends on how many you're doing. If it's 6 or 7, that's something. I don't watch TV, so that's something I do at night, So I just do them one at a time. Dan Chapin, can I download the Tool Database and then delete the tools I do not need? I'm trying to remember how many tools there are. I think there were a couple of 1,000 listings for various tools. So if you want to take the time to do that, you're a braver man than I am. There comes a point where, and this is really, really a pain. There comes a point where it's faster and easier to take the one out of the many and import that one. I mean, if you have 12 or 13 you want to import from the Amana database, great. If you'd rather delete 2,000 or 3,000 tools, more power to you. I just don't have that kind of time, So, alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and call this finished. Holy cow, it's been an hour. Man, I try to keep these at around 30 minutes, but evidently this was a popular video. So my question to you guys is this. The video that went out this morning was a direct answer to all the response that I got here in live Q&A number 61. Everybody wanted to know more about the tool database. And I got to tell you, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed digging into it and learning more stuff that I didn't know myself. But I liked the direct response because I knew this is what you wanted. So here's my question to you. What's next? Now, I'm not going to guarantee that I can do a video on what you want to see next, but I will certainly take a look into it. And if I can do it, I'll do it. Is there a tool you'd like for me to check out? I've never done inlays, and I've never done the photo V-carve. So if it's more than that, sorry. But if it's anything other than that, if there's something you would like to see me do, please throw it in the comments after this video goes live as a standard video, or hit me up through the contact us page on my website, marklindsaycnc.com. Sponsored again by Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media. And we can do one on hardware. That's kind of vague. So, okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and, good grief, it's been an hour even. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you for joining me. Thank you to the people who have clicked those links and donated to the cause. I really appreciate you guys more than you will ever know. It still freaks me out to get a notification that there was a donation to my channel. I really appreciate you guys more than you will ever know. Thank you to everybody who is subscribing. Thank you to everybody who has shared any of my videos and shouted me out on Facebook and all that stuff. I really do appreciate you guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and end this now. And I'll just say, get out and make some chips. Go do something cool. Y'all take care. Have a good one.